Yes. Our next speaker is Mr. Fuad Zain. He is a medical illustrator and clinical investigator at Baylor College of Medicine, Texas. He did his master's in medical illustration from Rochester Institute of Technology, New York. Before going to USA, he was in public health service. He was working as a medical officer in primary health center in Palakkad district, Kerala. Sir, we are honored to have you here with us. Over to you.
Thank you, Dia. Just give me 1 minute.
Water pen.
Okay.
Hello.
Yeah, you're audible.
All right, thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to get rid of some background noises. So, okay. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes. Start.
Second. How about now?
Yeah, it's good.
All right, cool. So hello everyone. So my topic for today is visualization of science and science of visualization. So I'm a medical illustrator and clinical investigator. I actually have a background in medicine. I'm a medical doctor. Then I have a master's in medical illustration. That means we visualize different medical texts. We do create illustration and artwork for medical journals. We create animations, 3D model, all that sort of cool stuff. So I'm going to talk a little bit about how to visualize medicine or science, right? And also about science of visualization. What is it's basically the basic principles of art or visualization. So with that being, yes.
If you open your video, would be better. I request you to.
Is my video not open? That's good. Thank you. Let me see. Sorry about that. I forgot. Can you guys see me?
Yes, you can see.
Good. All right. So, okay. Yeah. So let's go ahead. So this is Dr. Frank Netter and his illustration. So I just want to talk a little bit of background about my journey. I'm not going to talk much about it, but just to give you a gist. So Dr. Frank Netter was actually a physician. Then he actually specialized in the field of medical illustration. Then he created, lots of actually 4,000 medical illustration, and it went on and became a huge thing in medical field. So this is one of his human gross anatomy textbook that has been, taught in various, I think most of the medical schools all over the world, and it's actually Atlas of Human Anatomy. When we learn in med schools, I think it's in the first year we go through this textbook, and it's very huge impact in how we learn medicine. So he was actually a surgeon. Then he specialized in medical illustration, and he became a celebrated medical illustrator later on. So that was his journey, and I have sort of the same journey. This is another medical illustrator, so it's in his own word. Anyone having to do with medicine will have looked at Frank Netter's artwork, and he got inspired from Frank Netter. Frank Netter was originally from New York. I think he passed away in 1991. And David Bolinsky, another medical illustrator, he got inspired from the same kind of journey. And he's saying, I decided I would make him my role model, get him my degree in medical illustration, and then go into medical school. So sort of similar medical journey for me. I went to med school. I studied all those cool stuff, 5 to 6 years. I worked as a junior doctor or a physician for 3-4 years. Then I went on for my master's in medical illustration here in Rochester Institute of Technology in New York. Then I worked in Johns Hopkins University in Maryland. Then now I work in Baylor Medical College. That's in Houston, Texas. It's a southern part of the United States. And I was always fascinated about art, illustration, all this creative side. And that's the reason I actually went on and took this adventure. So that's a little bit of my background. So moving on, what is medical illustration? So this is a skull I drew, it's been 3 years ago. So we had an actual skull in our studio. So we learned to actually take the pencil and draw on paper. That's that's where we start to illustrate different steps. So medical illustration, if I talk about the visualization of medicine or science, it was always been there. It's not a new thing. Before there were written words, there were pictograms, the pictorial representation of different objects, right? It dates back to thousands of years. Ancient Egyptians, Babylonians, Greek, Chinese, Indians, in all recorded, they all have medically related illustrations on stone, metal, ceramic, and all sort of stuff. So historians actually claim first pictorial representation appeared 30,000 years ago in the form of cave paintings. We might have learned cave paintings and all those carvings and stuff, right? So this is an illustration of a mammoth. I think it's from a prehistoric cave drawing, 15,000 BC, with a leaf-shaped dark area where the heart should be. So this has been understood as a representation and an illustration for hunters in order to point their arrow when they hunt for big animals like elephant and stuff, right? So this is a little bit of history. So it was always been there. Then moving on, coming to the modern age, we all might have heard about the Renaissance, right? That happened in Europe. So artists were instrumental in bringing about reinterpretation and rebooting of medical dogma during this Renaissance. And Renaissance began in Italy in 14th century, and it lasted through 17th century. Well, it was a cultural movement, not just art, art, literature, medicine, science, everything there's been a sort of reawakening and rediscovery going on, and we call it Renaissance. So focusing on our subject, paintings, drawings, sculptures of human body during the Renaissance were more with realism, energy, and some of the famous artists at that time, Raphael, Michelangelo, and obviously you might have heard about Leonardo da Vinci. And this is one of the artwork from Leonardo da Vinci. So he has been considered as a polymath who has expertise in medicine, science, mathematics, all sort of different disciplines. And medical illustrators consider he as a sort of a modern father of medical illustration, because he has created a lot of illustration related to human body and anatomy. In a time where still the knowledge about human body was evolving, so that was very good work from Leonardo da Vinci at that time. So let me talk a few use of medical illustration. Where it's mainly being used. So medical education is one of the most area where medical illustration is being used. If you look at this text, this is a text which explains thyroid hormone synthesis. So a gland thyroid we have right here around the neck. It produces thyroid hormone, and there is all these pathways, this negative feedback, all sort of things. So you have to read all these texts. So this is an illustration I created for the same concept. It's not great, but I was this is something I created 5 years ago, and I was learning illustration. But again, you can see, we can visualize all these texts, and it become more easy for the audience, for the students, or whoever who wanted to learn. It become more easy for them. We can break it down as an illustrator. So that's medical education is always an area where medical illustration, medical artwork, or scientific visualization has been used. There has been different studies proving this. Pictorial illustration improves students' learning, effects of detailed illustration of science, and there's been tons of studies that have been on this subject. Moving on, now, technology has been advancing every single day. So virtual reality, augmented reality, mixed reality, all are being, it's in a different field, also in medical illustration, technology, even IT industry and engineers is doing all this kind of cool stuff. Also within the field of medical illustration, we are adapting all technology in order to explain different medical subjects to appropriate audience. So this is one of the simulation which explains one scenario in a surgical room. So there could be a very rare chance, but a possibility of fire while you operate on a patient. So how do you, get rid of the fire? Otherwise, it'll end up having a damage, a serious damage for patients and maybe for doctors as well. So these things has to be trained, right? You have to have few seconds in order to think and act. So you cannot obviously put a patient on fire and study this, learn this, right? So in these kind of situations, this technology and illustrations is very helpful. So this is one of example I would like to show. So that small instrument, this is called Portracer, which actually produces a little bit of spark. So there is, again, it's very rare chance, but there is a chance of, fire. So, and also oxygen is a conductor of fire, as we all know. So there is a chance of spark and fire. So again, with the help of technology, and that actually one of my colleague, medical illustrator, she works in that company, and she actually works with other, IT colleagues to sort of develop that kind of simulations, and which is again becoming more common in medical education and training future surgeons. Another domain where medical illustration and visualization of science is being used or helpful is in communication. Communication between hospitals and patients, doctor and patients, and used in public health. In order to you might all have seen the picture of COVID, right? With the everybody knows that there is a spike, there is a mutation spike because of this. Especially with this technology, we are a lot more into visuals right now with all this iPad and touch screen and stuff. So communication is where again this field is so much helpful. Here I would like to just focus on one example. So this is an MRI of brain. If we wanted to explain it to the patient, it'll be hard for the patient. Even for some of the doctors, they doesn't know where is the lesion. So actually, radiologists are the specialist who is going to look at MRIs and CT scans and understand it better. So medical illustrator work with radiologists to break down the information, and maybe in this case we colorize. So in this specific scenario, you have seen that MRI, we take it to a software called Osiris. Then we get actual lesion. So in this case, it's in a brain aneurysm. Again, aneurysm is it could be fatal if not treated and found out. So then this is actually one of my painting, my digital illustration. So we create the image from Osiris, and then we go ahead and digitally paint it. Then doctors and maybe in medical journals and stuff, this could be used to for effective communication. This is another award-winning medical illustrator. He's actually painted this for again for a treatment of brain aneurysm. If you look at these clips are used by surgeons for the treatment of brain aneurysm. So this is another domain where again visualization of science or visualization of medicine is being used. That's for medical, legal case and legal illustration. I'm not sure whether this actually depends on different country, in which country and area you belong. Here in the United States, this is a very big thing. If you can always, if there is something bad happen in hospital, you can always go ahead and go to your attorneys and advocates, and you can sue the hospital or doctor or whatever. So if it's a genuine case, you'll get compensated, right? So either for doctor or patients, we work with advocates. The medical illustrator work with advocates to actually explain, colorize these X-rays and MRIs to again visually explain what has happen, and this actually really helps in the court, right? In order to, because the people in the court, the judge and all, are not expert in medical field. So this is another same medical legal illustration, again explaining a fracture of a finger bone, and end up having an issue and went to court, and medical illustrators comes into play, work with attorney to get the compensation this patient needed. So that's all I would like to talk from a perspective of visualization of science, right? And more specifically, visualization of medicine. When I say science, this is in engineering and all sort of stuff. Visualization is, it's being used a lot. even for medical journals, I've seen medical scientific illustrators creating nanoparticles with the 3D models, 3D animations for their journals and papers. I'm more involved with medicine. That's why I gave you more insight into the field of medical illustration. So when we go to science of visualization, this would be the next discipline. It would be art. Basically, when we talk about fine art, the very basic concept I would like to, just explain here is, especially in medical illustration, we assume a light is falling on an object from, the left upper side, right? And the shadow is here on the bottom of right bottom side. So this is how we assume, and we create illustration based on this assumption. Obviously, for 3D models and stuff, the software, you can bring in the light and you don't have to do anything. But for the most illustration, it will be 2D and you have to create from scratch. So you have to understand the basic concepts of art, fine art, right? And yeah, so this is not very difficult, but to get the digital painting or even painting on paper, you have to have experience, you have to practice this. But you can, if you have a basic understanding, if here I guess there are different students who's gonna go to different streams, and if they produce a research paper, and if they want to do some illustration of their own, this is the basic concept you have to understand. For every object we see in life, it's actually three-dimensional. It's not 2D, and we are trying to portray that three-dimensional object on a 2D paper. So how do we give little life to that object? How do we give a little bit of those values to that object? And you don't have to go crazy and do a beautiful rendering if you're not very much into the art. But all you can do is always give a light shade where you assume light is coming, and give a dark shade where you assume there would be the dark. If you do at that minimum basics, if you then you're good, in your papers and stuff. So here I'm going to explain the whole artistic principle, if you will. This would be the light area where the light is coming, and there will be a highlight. Highlight is actually a reflection which you see towards your eyes, and this would be something called core shadow. Then you have more darker shadow here. Then there is a reflected light here. Then there is a cast shadow. So here's the details. So that's all about science of visualization. Okay, can you see my screen now?
Yes, yes.
So it's a different software. Can you see this? Is it still the PowerPoint, or can you see something different what I'm doing?
So PPT, same PPT.
Okay, you're seeing same PPT. Okay, let me. Now you see something, right? Different.
Yes.
Yeah, so this is a software we use. I'm not, I didn't take a note of time. Are we running on?
It's okay. Few more minutes.
Right. Okay. All right. So, this is one software you all might have heard about the Photoshop, right? So, again, when you do art, we can, okay. So I just created this today for just a demonstration. Here we consider light coming from, especially for medical illustration, we consider light is coming from this side, and we consider, the cast shadow is over here. And what we're gonna do, we create different layers. On the first layer, So we go here and pick a lighter version of color here, and basically, so here I actually reduce the opacity and reduce the flow. So you can slowly increase the value here. So so I assume the light is coming from here, and so right. And for darker version, again, I pick color from here. So this is a dark place. I go here to the color panel and I pick a little bit more darker, and give the core shadow here. So just this two-dimensional thing, this two-dimensional sphere, we need to bring it to life, right? That's all I'm doing. So it takes a little time. You have to be patient, especially with art. So once that's done, core shadow is given, then I'll go ahead and do the reflected light, which I'm gonna pick. So something I'm just showing you how do I work, right? So I create this is one way of digital painting. I don't use this software very common. What I use is a different software called Adobe Illustrator. It's more design software, right? It's a different way of working. This is a different way of working. I'm gonna just take one more minute to show you how is Adobe Illustrator. So this is Adobe Illustrator. This is what I was telling for younger people who are into research and stuff. If they want, they can use this kind of illustration for their papers. And what they have to do is just assume light is coming from here and shadow is here. So it'll be very simple illustration, right? So again, I ungroup. What I did was, I created a shape. This one, right? A shape here, a lighter version, and I brought in and kept here. And this is a darker version that I came in and kept here. So pretty much, I just wanted to show you very small introduction to what kind of software to use. Then there is obviously 3D software. So pretty much that's it. So that's visualization of science and science of visualization right there. I just wanna, I introduced you to Dr. Frank Netter, right, from New York, who had this incredible journey from medicine and surgery to medical illustration. So this is his quote: "Draw what can't be seen, watch what's never been done, and tell thousands about it without saying a word." Or else we can say a picture speaks 4,000 words, right? So thank you so much. I'm gonna take any questions you have. Right, over to Dia, right?
Yeah, anybody, any questions? Yeah, one question I have is the MRI, right? Whatever you are showing. So if you want to illustrate something inside the brain or whatever, right? So you get a the MRI scan, and then you convert to Dichron image and then do work on it, or how is that inside brain item you were coloring it, so nicely there. The very some screen you were showing, right?
Yeah. So that one, yeah, so there's a software called Osiris.com. Yep. So that's gonna give. Let me share the screen so everybody can see what we are saying. Yeah. So essentially, this software would give an image, right? You see the 3D image. So this was 2D, MRI was 2D, and this MRI comes in CD, right? The CD. So we put the CD into this software or the data, MRI scan data, actual data, to the software, and this software is going to actually produce a 3-dimensional view for us, and you can play around for a nice view of this lesion. So in this case, it's a brain aneurysm. And once you are happy with an orientation, okay, this is the orientation I'm gonna go ahead and work on so that people can see and understand it better. Then I'm gonna take a picture, right? Or I'm gonna save this image and I take it to. I just showed you Photoshop. In this case, I use Photoshop. I don't go for Adobe Illustrator, right? So because it's actually you have to sit and paint. So I go ahead and then, as I said, basic principles of art. You see here, the light is coming. Here is dark, and that's all we do here. Good question. Thank you. I see 2 comments. Yep. Is there any other questions? Anything, even, if I think many students are from college, so if they want to know about the industry or career, I'm welcome to answer any questions.